Express.js, then HTTP methods from Express, then the REST API basics and the API for that, methods for that REST API. Then we have seen the introductory part regarding Express.js. Then we have seen that why should we use that Express.js, then the necessity of Express.js, then the features of Express.js, that is, it is faster server-side development, middleware, then routing, templating, debugging, then the advantages of Express here. Then we have seen the installation process for that Express.js, the commands for that installation. Then we have seen this example for that Express.js, then request and response object with the methods. Then we have seen that uh, response methods. Then we have seen that Express.js get request. That is, we have seen that get and post methods for that REST API with the examples. We have seen that Express.js post as well as get method. Now, and that we have seen Express.js routing with the examples. Now, in these sessions, we are going to discuss about error handling. So here, error handling refers to how Express catches and processes errors that occur both synchronously and asynchronously. We have seen that synchronous function and asynchronous function. Yeah, that asynchronous function is prefixed by the asynchronous keyword. So that error handling in the Express, that how that errors are handled in the synchronous and asynchronous functions, how that errors are processes. That here Express comes with a default error handler. So you don't need to write your own code to get started or to handle that error here. So Express comes with default error handler. So how to catch that error? So catching that errors means, so here it is important to ensure that Express catches all the errors that occur while running root handlers and middleware. So while that running of that root handlers and the middlewares, Express catches all the errors that occurs in the running that root handlers or the middleware. So here errors that occur in synchronous code inside root handlers and the middleware that require no extra work. If synchronous code throws an error, then Express will catch and process it. How it will catch and process it here? See the example. So app.get, getting that function here, getting that request here, app.get inside the brackets in single quote slash comma, the function contains the parameter request and response. That body contain here. See how that, how Express will catch the error and process it here. Throw new, see, throw new error inside the bracket broken here. So Express catch this, catch Express will catch this error and handles on its own. This is for synchronous function here. Okay. So in synchronous function, that if that code synchronous code throws an error, so that Express will catch and process this error here using throw new error and the message here. Then here for errors returned from the synchronous function invoked by root handlers and the middleware, so we must pass them to the next function. When your errors return from the asynchronous function, we have seen for the synchronous function, and now here errors return from asynchronous functions that invoked by the root handlers and the middleware, so we must pass them to the next function where Express will catch and process them. That we have to pass that errors to the next function where that Express will catch and process that error. See the example for that, app.get inside the bracket slash comma function contains three parameters now: request, response, and the next. So the body of that get function here. So here we are going to write one file like fs.read file. So this is the message that file does not exist. That means error here. So function contains error comma data. This is the callback function here. Read file is the callback here. We are going to read that file. If that file is not present, so here if error, so we are going to pass that errors to Express here. Like next inside the bracket value, that is error. If that error, we are going to pass that error to the Express here, then it will handle that error. Else response dot send the data. If there is no error, it will proceed further. Okay, this is the way we can pass that errors to the next function in the that errors are written from the asynchronous functions. Then we are going to pass that error, pass them to the next function here. Yeah, next error. We are going to pass that error to the express. Then, yeah, starting with that express file, root handlers and middlewares that return a promise. That return a promise. We have seen that about promises. That means it will call the next and the value automatically when they reject or throw an error. Whenever root handlers and we are starting with that express, then that root handlers and the middleware return a promise. What promise? That it will return, that is call that next value automatically when they are going to throw the error or they are going to reject that. Okay, see the example for that here. Get function with the user slash id. See the asynchronous function, proceeding with the asynchronous keyword here. Asynchronous function consisting of parameters request, response and next. So yeah, where user is equals to await, we have to wait for this. Await get user by id that contains request dot params dot id and response dot send user here. Here you can see that if that get user by id throws an error to or error, or if it is throw any error or an any rejection, so next will be called. Here next will be called with the value provided within that next function. So there when that next will be called with the default error object, that means if no rejected value is there in that next function, then that next will be called with the default error object provided by the express router here. So here you can see that if that get user by id function, if it throws an error or rejects, then the next function will be called with the value inside that next function here, or either it throw the error or the rejected value. If there is no rejected value inside that next is provided, then next will be called with the default error object that is provided by the express router. If you pass anything to the next function, like except the string root, then that express regards the current request as being an error and it will skip any remaining non-error handling routing and the middleware function. So we have to pass the value to the next function. So here, if the callback in a sequence provided no data, then only if there is only errors. If that callback, here you can see if the callback in a sequence provides no data, that means there is only errors are there. So we can simplify this code like here, get function with the parameter like request, response and next. Then here, write file. So fs.write file is the callback here with the message and the data here. Inaccessible path, data comma next. This is the callback here, and the close the function, then function request comma response, response dot send okay, and close that function here. Here you can see in this example, next is provided as the callback for here. Next is provided as the callback for fs dot write file, which is called without or with the errors. If there is no error, then the second handler is executed. If there is no error, then the second handler is executed. That is, it will send the response as a okay. Otherwise, Express catches and processes the error. If is there any error, then Express will catch that error and process for that error. So yeah, we must catch the errors that occurs in asynchronous code that are invoked by the uh, root handlers or the middlewares, and we have to pass them to the express for the processing. So how to pass this? See the get function app.get, then slash comma function request comma response comma next. Three parameters are there for the next is for the error handling here. Then you see the set timeout function. That set timeout function contains the empty function with the body